Affirmative action and gender equality are conversations that we can endlessly have. Today's debate is centered around the concept of gender equality, and the motion reads: reducing gender inequality is a myth that can't be achieved. Reducing gender inequality is a myth that can't be achieved. And gracing us today for this motion is Jamhuri High School versus State House Girls, and all the best to both teams. Team proposition, first speaker, you have 3 minutes.
The same way the shepherd did not rest till he brought back his lost sheep is the same way I won't rest till I bring my opponent back to the right side. My name is Sine Makinya from the great Jamhuri High School, and I'm here to strongly and vehemently propose the motion that states reducing gender inequality is a myth that can't be achieved. First of all, what is gender inequality? It refers to treatment of being unequal to either one of the genders by either rights, opportunities, any access to resources. What is myth? A myth are stories that are believed to be true, but in real sense isn't. To my first point, gender-based violence. Gender-based violence is experienced in every single country in this world. It's a very special topic because over 35% of women worldwide have experienced it, not because they don't have the voice to speak out their concerns, but rather because of the inequality brought into the government system or the type of tradition they have. In the year 2019, September, information released by the World Bank stated that, as I said, 35% of the women across the whole entire world experience it. So I don't think the solution is to remove or reduce gender equality, but rather to introduce equity, gender equity, of which the solution should be we should introduce gender equity in such a way that the male and female genders are not affected, but rather their rights are voiced out according to their certain genders and the way they work or function. To my second point, religious reasons. In some countries, women are not allowed to work, not because the constitution or the law states that they can't work, but rather because the religion itself states that they can't work. An example of this is Afghanistan, in which 84% of the women don't work and all men actually work. The solution to this is equity. In both men and women should coexist with each other so that to be able to produce a better country or a better society for both the male and female genders. And with that, I rest my case.
Team opposition, first speaker, you have 3 minutes.
I would first like to counteract what my opposition here has said. These people are feeding us lies, I tell you. What? He said that that gender-based violence, is caused by inequality. This is not true. Gender-based violence is caused by sexism. You might wonder what that term is. Worry not, that is why I am here. Sexism just means prejudice against someone based on their gender. And extreme sexism may foster indices of GBV, which is gender-based violence, such as sexual harassment, rape, etc. Please bring forth correct information. You all know of the holy month, which is Ramadan. And the one thing I like about our motion is how relatable it is. Coming from a family full of boys, an incident that happened to me in Ramadan, my mom and I, we made food and we set the table, but the kitchen was a mess. So my brother, who's quite tall, you know how tall boys usually just feel themselves, came and he was like, why is this kitchen like this? Where are the women in this family? Mind you, he has the audacity to say that in front of my mother, who is a woman. You know what my mom did? She made sure that this boy did the dishes for a whole month. That is gender equality, I tell you. I would like to expound I would like to negate the motion that states reducing gender inequality is a myth that can't be achieved by exposition of the motion through narration. Let me first start by expounding on the motion. Gender inequality is the social process by which men and women are not treated as equals, which results in the stereotypes that regard one gender inferior to the other. On the other hand, we have gender equality, which is when access to rights or opportunities is unaffected by gender. Unfortunately, in most contexts, when we talk about gender inequality, it is viewed as a man versus woman fight where either of the genders must win. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an entirely false belief, and it has hampered the efforts of addressing gender inequality. كل نفس ذائقة الموت. Every soul shall taste death. Now, this is a reminder to all of you here that you're gonna die someday, and you're gonna be buried 6 feet under, so start doing righteous deeds. You might wonder why I stated that, which is an authentic verse from the Holy Quran that is a reference for all the Muslims globally. I want to talk about mirath, which is inheritance. In inheritance, according to the Sharia, which is the Islamic law, the boy child receives twice as much as the girl gets. Yes, this same brother of mine that was refusing to do the dishes is gonna get twice what I am going to get when my mother dies. Plot twist, I am at an advantage, not him. You might wonder how. Now let me tell you. This is because, let's say I inherited 50 camels and he inherited 100 camels. That half he is gonna use to cater for me. Let's say I needed makeup or anything that a girl will need, a dress, anything that my mom was to supply for me, this same boy is the one who will supply. And you might say, you might wonder, what if he doesn't? Trust you me, he will, because he is bounded by the Islamic law. This is Khadija Musa from the State House Girls. Thank you.
Team opposition, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. I like that speech. First, I'll start by saying, she said mirath, which is inheritance in the Muslim religion. Right. Do you know why men or boys are supposed to receive more than a woman? Do you know why? I'll answer that question. Because we men have to pay dowry for getting women. So you see, you can't tell me we'll have gender equality, but yet we men go to our pockets and get money. To only get what? A wife. So you see, it's expensive to buy women. And that's why, sorry for that, don't quote me bad, not buying women, but actually for the mirath, which is inheritance, we actually need that money for dowry. So if women won't pay dowry and men have to pay dowry and our parents are dead, where are we supposed to get that money? Let me go to my first point. First of all, I was to propose the motion, and my name is Shikwan Imran from the great Jamhuri High School. Now, to my first point, I'll say the leadership positions. The leadership positions actually limit us from getting gender equality. Why am I saying this? In Kenya, we have women rep. Why don't we have men representatives? Why? We should ask ourselves why we don't have male representatives. Because this is why. Women have a lot of problems, yet they need to be solved. And if women are not there at the top to speak for themselves, men will not look after them. That's why we don't need actually gender equality. We need gender equity, as my friend said here. Let me give you an example of gender equity. We're all in school. We have a PE session. I have diabetes. First speaker has asthma, and the third speaker is a healthy person. Now, the coach says we have to go for 5 labs. Do you think we will actually manage to go for 5 labs. I have diabetes. That's an old problem. And if you're advocating for gender equality, that means that every one of us will have to go for that 5 labs, regardless of our problems. But gender equity means that I have diabetes. Because of my health problems, I'll have to go for maybe, let's say, 1 lab. And the one with asthma can, if he can manage, he can do actually 2 labs. So we are not advocating for gender equality. We should be advocating for gender equity. Because why? We know that men and women are built different. What a man can do, they say a woman can do better. But I say this, women can do some things that men can't. They can carry our children, but we can't. So, if you want to be equal, when will I enter in a maternity ward? When? For that, I rest my case.
Team Opposition, second speaker, you have 3 minutes.
So first, I would like to counter what my opponent said, that men need more money so that they can buy women. First of all, dowry is not only in form of money, it can be in form of service. And in the Quran, it says that a man can pay his dowry when he offers to teach the Quran to his wife. So, my name is Cora Mutunge, and not the avatar, just a girl from State House Girls. And I'm here to oppose the motion that says that reducing gender inequality is a myth that can't be achieved. I believe it can't be achieved. It can be achieved. So first of all, before I digress, let us all set our sights on gender parity. What is gender parity? Gender parity is the equal contribution of men and women to every dimension of life, whether private or public. An instance, one Ethiopian Prime Minister, Mr. Abiy Ahmed, signed into a measure that mandates gender parity in the country's executive in 2019, and statistics from the United Nations show that a 25% rise in inclusion of the female gender in the country's representation. Also, the Chief Executive Plan International, Anne Brigitte, once said that countries such as the US, Germany, and Switzerland are in the vanguard for gender equality thanks to their excellent anti-discrimination laws and policies. This just shows us that the little efforts that we make can affect us widely in bringing gender equality. Another instance, the foundation of gender equality was family built. Gender equality is more than a goal itself. It's a precondition for meeting the challenge of reducing poverty, promoting sustainable development, building good governance. These are the words of Kofi Annan over 4 years ago. 62 decades ago, an Italian woman who was gifted in the art of writing wrote the book. In the gift of writing, she was a feminist writer who wrote the book of The City of Ladies and the Treasure City of Ladies. 586 years later, that is 1991, Rolf Dupré, another esteemed male writer, republished a book bringing even more light to Christine de Pizarro's work. Pioneers of gender equality such as Christine Dupré, Kenny Annie, even Nelson Mandela himself, are just but a handful of some people who are responsible in evoking the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals that serve us all today. And in this context, the relevance of the reference is to the Sustainable Development Goal number 5 and 10, which states that gender equality and reduced equality respectively. So, for sure, it will be ignorant for us to refuse this, because we have all learned from the past few microseconds that our future needs our history. Thank you.
Team Proposition have been tasked to validate that given there are differences between men and women, how can they justify that gender inequality is a myth based on their argument of differences. Team opposition have been asked the question, can they give us examples of where gender equality has actually been achieved, and if it is achievable, how will they go about implementing it? Team proposition, third speaker, you have 3 minutes.
I, Ayul from the Great Jamhuri High School, stand before you ready to propose the motion that states reducing gender inequality is a myth that can't be achieved. And I say yes, it is a myth and it can't be achieved. While complete eradication of gender inequality may be a long-time process, by taking these steps, guess what we can achieve? Gender equity. What do I mean? Gender equity and inequality go hand in hand. They both address the issue of gender violence. I was posed a question by a person in the audience saying, how is being built different, supporting something? Well, let me answer you. According from the documentary from DW, it states that a man is naturally structured with muscles for heavy lifting, and a woman's body contains less muscles. Why? Because she does not have to do a lot of work. Therefore, we introduce a solution. What's the solution? Gender equity. For example, I work with a woman in a machinery. How do I imply gender equity? I remove the heavy machine or engine, she fixes it. We are of different genders, but are holding the same status. That's what we're trying to put the table. Gender inequality cannot be achieved. Instead, it must be found a solution. What's the solution? Gender equity. You see, my oppositions are here talking about how gender inequality can be achieved while there is already gender equality. How? According to facts sheets, only only 77.0% women around the world are working. Guess the percentage of the men? 65.5%. So when you come and tell me there's no gender equality, what do you mean? And plus, I think the first speaker came and spoke about something about, I don't know, voices of the women not being heard and etc. While there are lots, and I mean a lot of organizations supporting the women. And how many do you have for men? Can somebody tell me how many organizations are supporting men right now in Kenya? I give you examples of organizations that are supporting women. There is Plan International. She is the first Global Fund for Women. And when I was searching about men, it said, your search is invalid. You can imagine. They are fighting for their rights they already have. I support a world where gender inequality has a solution and not being deducted. Because there's no way, as I am finishing, because there's no way we will ever be equal. I cannot hold a child in my womb, and the woman cannot produce a child on her own. So by saying that we reduce gender inequality, that means every single person, whether male or female, is being put under the same status. And I don't vie for that. And with that, I raised my case.
Team opposition, third speaker, you have 3 minutes.
My name is Ali Swere. I'm from State House Girls. I won't use the article there because my work will speak for itself, respectfully. I'm here to negate the motion that states reducing gender inequality is a myth that can't be achieved. So I'll start by deducing contradictory points from my opponents. The first speaker talked about gender-based violence. And I think this is a fact that we can actually see that over time, gender-based violence, the rate has reduced over time. And I don't think it would be a conclusive statement because according to the UN Women, which is actually an organization built in the terms of talking about women, did a statistical analysis, and it proved that 1.8% of women only experience gender-based violence as of today. Because as we stick to the motion, it states that reducing gender inequality is a myth that can't be achieved. And I'm opposing it by saying that reducing it can be achieved. Now, when we move on to what they continue to say, over time, they continue to speak about a man not being able to bear fruit. That's basically being able to give birth. And I would like to give a short narration from Jubilee Media. This is an organization which partners with people all over the globe talking about the current issues we face as a social society. Now, they rounded up 8 people, that is 4 men's rights activists and 4 feminists. And the discussion, toward the debate, they were bringing up certain challenging issues that affect us. And of course, the men's rights activists were inclined to speak about how the men are superior, that's because they are patriarchal, and the women are trying to fight for their rights. Now, what was the most beautiful thing that happened was by the end of the debate, the interviewer asked them, out of all of you, how many do believe men and women are different but equal? Of course, all the feminists stepped up, and 2 of the strongest chauvinists of the group, surprisingly, were open to the idea. And they were like, yes, we do believe they're different but equal. Now, when they were asked why the sudden change of heart, one of the men, he was named Mark, he said, things are built different for a reason. Now, just because we believe that gender equality can be achieved, we don't say that the fact that of it being achieved is that we have to have one superior. Gender equality is us coming together and accepting that we do complement each other. And in line of the SDG number 10, that is reduced inequality, with reference to also SDG number 5, which is gender equality, reducing it is not a myth, and it can be achieved, because as we see over time. And to answer your question, where you asked about how gender equality has been seen, Priyanka Chopra, in her latest movie, in the interview of the movie launch, she said that with the difference from 14 years ago and now, it came as a shock to her that she's been paid a salary as equal as her co-actor, that is the supporting actor she was leading with. But in India, where she was 14 years back, the man was being paid 10 times as much as the lady. Now, this has showed over time that reducing it is being achieved, and implementation only lies with us. Personally speaking, I'm a pessimist, I'm a logical person, but gender inequality, and there's a difference because the aspects of gender equality they haven't talked about. There's the gender gap index and gender parity. So this all lies with us. If we want to change, we will change. If we want to achieve it, we will achieve it. All you have to do is open our minds and see through it. Thank you.
Team Proposition, you have 1 minute to make your closing remarks.
Thank you for actually giving me this chance again. You know, it actually pains me seeing people vying for gender equality. You know why? In traditional books, we have seen that men were actually taken for slavery, not women. So it actually pains us as men. We were suffering while they were in the country safe. So if we are vying for gender equality, that means if slavery was still here, they would be working. So you should actually appreciate us as men for saving your lives. In the labor division, as I've said, slavery. But why do we think we have won this debate? We came here with pure statistics that are not from Google. These are statistics that people see every day. Thank you. And I was Shikwan Imran from the great Jamhuri.
Team Opposition, you have 1 minute to make your closing remark.
So, as the State House girls, what we are simply trying to say is gender equality can be achieved. And with reference to their points about the institution of marriage, I would like to explain it to you. Let us let us start by the marriage. For us to get married, see, people usually say, get married because you're completing one another. And for you to complete something, you need 2 halves, which means they have to be equal. A half and a quarter cannot complete each other. And I think that they do not know the meaning of gender equality. Gender equality simply means when access to rights and opportunities is unaffected by the gender. I agree, physically they're more fit. There's no question there. But now what I'm trying to say is we need equal opportunities. For me to stand here and debate against them, this is an equal opportunity, showing that gender equality can truly be achieved. And still on marriage, for procreation, a woman cannot bear children on her own, and a man also cannot make children on his own. What does this show, ladies and gentlemen? Our God is truly a good God. It shows equality. We need each other to complete one another. Thank you.
Senior from Jamhuri, you had a clear definition of points. However, please avoid reading. And then when you give statistics like Afghanistan has got 84%, we need sources. Otherwise, we'll accuse you of cooking those figures. And then you also underutilized your time, which works against you, because one of the qualities of a good debater is utilizing the time effectively. Shikwan, you made some controversial statements, which were of course rebutted when you say women are expensive to buy. You could have maybe talked about dowry being a very expensive affair. Instead of giving that statement, it brings out a different connotation. Of course, you try to bring on board the issue of leadership positions and all that. Generally, you're a passionate debater. However, as a second speaker, we felt that you could have brought on board more examples in which reducing gender inequality has been a tussle, and the need for us to go the gender equity way so that the two can work hand in hand. Adel, your role as a debater is to be very keen. When you come and say supporting something, it works against you in your mastery of language. Otherwise, you had some good use of statistics to back up your argument, and they're well sourced.
I believe the motion was fairly dissected by both teams. We really expected so much from you guys. I felt quite a shaky start for the first 2 speakers, a bit of stutter, so we need to build more on confidence, all right? We expected so much from the opposers. Yes, what is it that can work to achieve gender equality or equity? We expected to hear about education and awareness, economic empowerment, political participation, but good mention of examples. Yes, Khadija, you came through with a real life experience, and we want that in a debate. Is there anywhere it has happened in practical life, as much as we have facts from elsewhere? So that was good. Cora, solid research, legal frameworks in the US, and such examples. Alice, build more confidence on yourself. You are the rock of the team. Good job to both teams. May the best team carry the day.
It was nice because my dear brother of mine said something I didn't like. How do you buy a woman?
For me, it was actually nice since it was my first time. I've never tried this. And I also took it very offensive that you say you buy a woman. I took it very offensive.
Okay, that was a slip of the tongue. I also corrected it, but sorry if it offended you guys. I didn't mean it in a bad way, okay? Are we good?
I actually understood how it came out and why it came out the way it did. That doesn't change the fact that it was wrong, but I understand the way it came out. A little bit, because it's like -1 point, and I feel like I know somewhere went wrong, it would have accommodated for that.
And I do have the results here with me. And the judges have awarded Jamhuri High School. Round of applause for Jamhuri. They have awarded them with 66%. A round of applause, please, for Jamhuri High School. And the judges have awarded State House Girls High School with 65%. A round of applause for State House Girls. And the winners of this debate are Jamhuri High School with 66%. Round of applause. And we have come to the end of this debate. And until next time, it is goodbye from us here at the Debate Circle. Remember to check our social media handles for more of this information on Instagram, on YouTube, and on Twitter at the Debate Circle. Kwaheri.